King Review Print Speaking to the Blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Podcast, recorded at the Bishopbriggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @QNReview. That is @CUEANDREVIEW. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@QNreview.com. That is INFORMATION or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
The Glasgow Times, on Thursday the 16th of May 2024. From the news section. Car used in hit and run found and is being examined. This article was written by Rebecca Newlands and read by me, Corey. A car used in a hit and run is being examined after being found abandoned. We previously reported that an 81-year-old man was hit by a black Vauxhall Astra while walking in Elderslie. He was struck at around 1:30 p.m. on Wednesday, May 15th, while crossing Main Street near its junction with Kings Road. He was rushed to hospital where he is battling serious injuries. Cops were on the hunt for a culprit as the car did not stop at the scene. Now the forces revealed they found the Astra on Hartfield Road, but with no one inside. Officers are examining the car while they continue to search for the driver. They are urging anyone who may have seen what happened to get in touch. Sergeant Chris Hoggins said, "The Vauxhall Astra failed to stop and was found a short time later in Hartfield Road. There was no one within. The vehicle is undergoing examination and extensive inquiries are ongoing to trace the occupants. I urge anyone who witnessed the crash or a black Vauxhall Astra being driven in the Elderslie area on Wednesday afternoon to contact us as soon as possible. I would also ask drivers with dashcam or anyone with personal footage to check to see if it holds anything relevant, and please get in touch. If you have any information that may assist us, please contact 101, quoting incident number 1733 of May 15th. Again, if you have any information that can assist the police, please contact them on 101, quoting incident number 1733 of May 15th. That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was written by Rebecca Newlands, and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times, on Thursday the 16th of May 2024. From the news section. Man who forced the evacuation of Glasgow homes with bomb jailed. This article was written by Connor Gordon and is being read by me, Corey. A man who sparked a lockdown after claiming he had built a homemade bomb was jailed on Thursday for 30 months. Christopher Scarr, 41, was snared with the device in a cupboard at the property in Glasgow's Springburn on April 17, 2023. Scarr had earlier emailed a doctor's surgery that he had built a device. He stated, "They might force me into something I don't want to do." Scarr also claimed to nurses that he learned how to make bombs from being in the army. Officers raided his property and found a device made of 3 black tubes, with orange wires twisted onto a black box. Around 60 residents were forced to flee their homes, a large police cordon was put in place, and roads were closed. The device was later found to be 3 pyrotechnics held together for outside use, which would flash and bang when activated. Scarr pleaded guilty at Glasgow Sheriff Court to behaving in a threatening or abusive manner. He also admitted making or knowingly have in his possession or control an explosive substance. Sheriff Andrew Cuby said, "This was, as you accept, a very serious offence, and you are right to be shocked at the consequences. You threatened frontline NHS workers and mentioned potential explosive devices. Police attended your property and saw what they reasonably thought was an explosive device. Suspicion was driven by what you threatened in terms of a homemade bomb of some sort. The complaint you had was about your housing situation, and it's baffling that you involved those people in the threats you made. There was a failure to recognise the risk, and the threat passed." The sheriff imposed 12 months supervision upon Scarr following his release from prison. The court heard that Scarr sent a ranting email to Springburn Medical Practice shortly after midnight on April 17th. He said, "I don't know why I trusted you with the information. I never divulged to any soul. The housing officer sent armed police to my door, and that got me angry, as last time I saw you, they alleged I assaulted Helen. I have built a TRI factor bomb with black powder igniting thermite and causing nitrogen high explosive, all connected to 3 anti-personnel percussion mines that are also friction activated. I will take a picture of the device I constructed. I have now taken the device apart. But I'm really worried that they might force me into something I don't want to do. I don't want to kill anybody, but I'm finding it hard to keep my cool." Members of staff at the practice alerted police to the email. 2 nurses attended Scarr's home for a check-up on Helen Stewart, who also lived at the property. Scarr told them that he purchased oxygen tanks to provide care for the woman's COPD, and that he had guns in his gas cupboard. A nurse later found oxygen bottles in the cupboard and told Scarr not to administer them to Miss Stewart. Scarr then said, "I can make bombs from being in the army." Police then attended Scarr's home when a search was carried out. Scarr was asked why he sent the email, and he stated that he had deactivated the device. Scarr told officers that he was happy for them to search the property, but said, "You are not going in the gas cupboard." Prosecutor Alistair Knox said, "Officers looked in the cupboard, and what looked to be an improvised explosive device was within. Police evacuated all witnesses from the building. There was a 200-metre police cordon and road closures. 60 residents were evacuated for public safety measures." Scarr was arrested, where he made admissions, but added he did not put powder or a battery in the device. He said, "I can go up and deactivate it for you." The device was examined by specialist officers, where it was found to contain an explosive substance. It was stated that the ignition system of the suspected device was not viable. Once ignited, the device would be thrown to the ground, and 5 seconds later it would explode with a flash, then a loud bang. Mr. Knox said, "The misuse or modification of such pyrotechnic items is a hazardous activity that has the potential to accidentally initiate any of the contained explosive substance, causing injury to people and damage to property nearby at the time of ignition. Such pyrotechnic items are designed to be used in the open, away from flammable material." Greg Cunningham, defending, told the sentencing he regrets his behaviour and is shocked and remains shocked at the consequences. The whole thing has hit him hard. How far this has went. He recognises the alarm he created and realises the risk and necessary steps. He feels he didn't build something to hurt anyone or with the intention of using it. What he built did not require in-depth knowledge. That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was written by Connor Gordon, and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times, on Thursday the 16th of May 2024. From the news section. ScotRail will extend all-day off-peak ticket prices. This article was written by Rebecca Newlands and read by me, Corey. ScotRail will extend its all-day off-peak fares trial until the end of September. The pilot scheme of removing peak time ticket prices on the rail service was due to run from October 2023 until June 2024, but First Minister John Sweeney revealed that the period will be extended by another 3 months. It is now scheduled to end on September 27, 2024. He made the announcement during a visit to a Fife Expo at Waverley Station as part of the Levymouth Rail Link opening celebrations. He said, "The Scottish Government's ambition to enhance our railways and make public transport easier and more affordable is clear. We know new rail investment can create real education, business and tourism opportunities and help breathe life into communities. This is currently most apparent with the soon-to-open £116 million Levymouth Rail Link. Bold initiatives such as our ScotRail peak fares removal pilot help build on this investment by encouraging more people to switch from car and opt to use the train. By extending this pilot for a further 3 months, we can better understand its impacts in terms of encouraging people to choose rail. It also helps tackle inequalities by making commuting, day trips and access to leisure activities even more affordable for all. I would encourage passengers to use this opportunity, not just for the daily commute, but to see all that Scotland has to offer. That might even include a trip on the Levymouth Rail Link or a visit to the Fife Expo. People already benefiting from the peak rail removal trial should encourage their friends and family to get on board and use it too." Joanne Maguire, ScotRail's managing director, added, "The removal of peak fares trial has been a hugely exciting opportunity for Scotland's railway to encourage more people across the country to choose rail travel. We are delighted that the Scottish Government has decided to extend the trial, and it gives even more people the opportunity to take advantage of more affordable journeys. Everyone at ScotRail is working hard to deliver the best possible journey experience for our customers, and encourage people to make travelling by train their mode of transport." That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was written by Rebecca Newlands, and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times, on Thursday, the 16th of May, 2024. From the news section. Scottish Government Fund to Clear School Meal Debt launched. This article was written by Rosie Lewis and is being read by me, Corey. An emergency £1.5 million fund has been opened to clear school meal debts across Scotland as part of First Minister John Sweeney's ambition to eradicate child poverty. The support will be allocated to local authorities to apply, and the scheme will cover school meal debt occurred to March 31st this year. Mr Sweeney said the move will help ensure children are not penalised for the challenges in paying for school meals because of the cost of living crisis. School meal debt is a matter for councils. However, the Scottish Government has said the one-off cash will be available to remove the impact of the debt. It is estimated school meal debt stands at around £1.8 million across the country, according to the Aberlour Children's Charity. Pupils in P1 to P5 receive free school meals, as do all children in special schools, and additional investment will see the provision extended to P6 and P7 children, whose families receive the Scottish Child Payment in the 2024-2025 year. With the First Minister stating his main ambition is to eradicate child poverty, he said, "I am pleased that we are continuing progress to ensure that no child or their family is penalised for struggling to pay for a school meal during a cost of living crisis they did not create. School meal debt can have a real impact on the well-being of families and can serve to stigmatise children whose families are going through challenging times. Local authorities can now bid to receive funding from a one-off Scottish Government fund which will support them to remove the impact of school meal debt. As a result of a decade and a half of austerity and a cost of living crisis caused by the UK government, too many families are struggling to make ends meet, and my government will take all the action we can to support them. I am determined that we support our children to have the best start in life. That is why we are expanding free school meal provisions to ensure every pupil can have a nutritious meal at school and ensuring no child is penalised simply because their family is struggling. The Scottish Government has previously committed to extending free school meals to every child in Scotland, including a pilot for secondary school pupils. That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was written by Rosie Lewis, and it was read by me, Corey.
From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 18th of May, from the news section, Council plans for citywide firework control zone. Article by Sarah Hilly. Glasgow councillors plan to ban fireworks in private gardens and on land across this whole city. Organised displays would not be affected by the rule, which could be in place for the period around Guy Fawkes Night later this year. In recent years, there have been a number of occasions where fireworks have been used dangerously and police and firefighters targeted. Councillors agreed to look at rolling out firework control zones across the entire council area. Initially, they had considered just introducing them in specific neighbourhoods, but it was raised that, as well as antisocial use, people and pets are impacted by noisy fireworks in every area. John Molyneux, Scottish Greens councillor, put forward the motion for the citywide firework control zone and also for reinstatement of a free display at Glasgow Green. He said there is a need for a firework control zone to protect animals or people with extra vulnerabilities, whether that's sensory disorders or a history of trauma. He added, obviously these groups are not confined to one or two areas of our city. It is an issue in all of our communities and in all of our streets. Families could still use sparklers, which are included in the permitted category 1 fireworks, but rockets and other types would not be allowed as part of the new potential restrictions. Councillor Molyneux added, in Pollock Shields there have been long-standing issues, particularly with the willful misuse of fireworks. Fireworks being handed out from the back of a car, being used mainly by young men as weapons, being aimed at property and being aimed at police and fire service workers. Young children have been hospitalised and many people in the community have felt afraid and vulnerable, and similarly, pets and animals in the community too. Many times this is over a period of weeks and months, and not just on November the 5th itself. He accepted amendments from Labour on reinstating the Glasgow Green display, which has not been held for several years, and from the SNP, which should ensure the ban comes into place. Under the proposals for Glasgow, fireworks displays would still be permitted as long as they are carried out by a professional operator or organised by a community group, sports club or similar organisations. Councillors instructed a director to develop proposals for consultation to consider whether there is evidence to support a whole council area approach to be taken. And that article was by Sarah Hilly. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 18th of May, from the news section, Daughter welcomes police probe into funeral directors. Article written by Rosie Lewis. A woman who claims her father's body was not treated correctly by a former funeral directors has welcomed a police investigation into the firm. Emma Weir claims undertakers at A Milne did not embalm or ID tag her late father's body and said her family were left in limbo when they asked for their deposit to be refunded. Detectives have launched a probe into the now closed A Milne independent funeral directors amid allegations of ashes going missing, families being given the wrong remains and financial misconduct. Ms Weir 27, and her mother, Bernadette, 53, were heartbroken when Edward Eddie Weir died suddenly at age 55 after collapsing on March the 19th this year. The mother and daughter of Millerston, Glasgow, entrusted A. Milne with his body and paid a £1,400 deposit. Ms. Weir claimed A. Milne's staff had to get two friends of the Weir family to help them when they took Mr. Weir's body from the house to a black company car. She said 8 days later, her father's body remained in the same clothes he was wearing when he died, had no ID tag, and was left in the fridge. The Borough of Three said the company also asked for the deposit immediately, without even so much as speaking about coffins or any funeral plans whatsoever. She added, "We were then left in limbo for around a week. My dad's body was in the fridge the whole time." Ms. Weir's family eventually lost patience and hired another funeral director, which attended, but she claimed that staff were initially unable to find Mr. Weir's body in the A. Milne morgue because it did not have an ID tag. Ms. Weir said her mother was eventually refunded £740 of her £1,400 deposit. She said when the family initially reported the incident to police, they were told at the time that it was a civil matter and were referred to the National Association of Funeral Directors, NAFD. Ms. Weir said she is glad the police are now investigating the firm, and she hopes it will ensure the parlour remains shut. She said, "I'm hoping the police shut them down for good. People are distraught that they don't have their loved ones' ashes yet." A. Milne had branches in Springburn and Dumbarton, which have closed, and it's also shut down its website. The National Association of Funeral Directors previously said it had received a number of complaints, but the business appeared to have stopped corresponding with us. Police Scotland said on Wednesday a search of the premises in Bullornut Road, Springburn, had concluded and any ashes found would be treated with the utmost respect. The search was carried out between May the 3rd and 14th, with a detailed examination into the storage and return of cremated remains and finances. An article was written by Rosie Lewis. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 18th of May, from the news section. Glasgow is renowned for alcohol-related crime, but recovery is thriving. Report by Esther Tarnow. An addiction worker said Glasgow may be renowned in Europe for alcohol-related issues, but, more importantly, recovery is also thriving. As part of our series examining alcohol in the justice system, we sat down with two staff members from the North East Alcohol and Drug Recovery Service. The project provides flexible, personalised support for people who live with addiction and volunteer to join. This includes offenders who seek help after their court appearance as part of their sentence or following their release from prison. Many come through the doors while going through the alcohol court, meaning their crimes were attributed to alcohol consumption. Gwydion ap Ciancian, Senior Advice Practitioner, said, "The sheriff is looking for commitment by that person. Change only comes through choice, so it's the individual's choice and we are empowering them to make that decision. We are skilled at working with people who have developed quite significant trauma. These symptoms of trauma can manifest in behaviour that can be a bit antisocial. The anger management problems, swearing at people. In a lot of cases, they will get you barred from a lot of services, but we understand the people we work with do require a special approach. Recovery plans are created by professionals based on individual needs and goals, and, at their Parkhead office, medical experts work with offenders on site and refer them to other organisations if required. They offer a range of support, from medication to housing aid, help with parenting and more, all based on what the men and women ask for. Mainly, the aim is to assist them as they try to change their own lives." The health worker added, "This is not to say the person needs to be alcohol free. They can still be drinking, but they need to be seen to be linked with some sort of recovery work and, more importantly, not offending. Staff at the programme are very busy, as they say the issue around excessive drinking in the city is prevalent. At the same time, those who reach out for support also have widespread options." Jane Drennan, team leader, said, "Glasgow is really fortunate in terms of the recovery community, and Glasgow is thriving." We've got a lot of volunteers that have been through recovery services and the established abstinence, stability and recovery cafes. There's a huge amount of great work that goes on here. I don't think anybody's naive, but a lot of the narrative around people in this city that use drugs and alcohol is very negative. People are facing all sorts of barriers and stigma. Gwydion said, "We're in a city where the problem is crazy when it comes to substance misuse and the problems that come up with that. It's renowned throughout Europe, in the world probably. Social problems are linked to drink and drugs. So we're very busy. We have an extremely big caseload compared to maybe other places in and around Scotland, horrendously more than them. But we've got recovery cafes, enhanced drug treatment programme, which involves medical grade heroin to administer to people. We've also got the planned consumption rooms, so we've got all those tools. All this work is based on a relatively new approach, promoting healing instead of punishment in cases where the offender has problems with alcohol consumption." Jane said, "We need to appreciate that there has been a shift in the last few years in Scotland, away from punishing people that are relying on alcohol and substances for whatever reason. There's been a real shift away from the punitive measures and trying to make it more supportive and look at it as a public health issue. The move away from punitive measures towards a more caring public health justice related stuff has been important, because that old approach doesn't work. The North East Alcohol and Drug Recovery Service is located at 871 Springfield Road and welcomes anyone looking for support." And the article was written by Esther Tarnay. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 18th of May, from the news section, "Prison replacement design coming soon." This article is unattributed. Designed for the replacement for HMP Barlinnie will be available this summer, the Justice Secretary has said, as Parliament faces profound choices over the release of prisoners to ease overcrowding. Angela Constance said she would work closely with victims' organisations to ensure people are informed around any prisoner releases which take place. It comes after she informed MPs that she is seeking the emergency release of prisoners as some facilities have become essentially full. The SNP minister said there had been a sharp rise of 400 prisoners incarcerated in Scotland since March 18th, with the total figure now sitting at 8,348. One of the measures she suggested is the early release of some prisoners, with Scottish Parliament approval, under the Bail on Release from Custody Scotland Act. Certain categories of prisoners will not be eligible for release under the law, including those sentenced to life, those who have not been tried, or anyone convicted of a terror-related, sexual or domestic violence offence. Miss Constance was then asked on BBC's Good Morning Scotland radio programme if construction had begun on the building which would replace Barlinnie. She said, "The final design will be available this summer, and the contract for construction will be established and signed later on this year." She said the final delivery date for the new prison will be included in the construction contract. And that article was unattributed, and it was read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 18th of May, from the news section, "Violent Rapist Jailed." Article written by Grant McCabe. A violent sex attacker whose victims remain frightened of him has been jailed for 9 years. Kyle Hill was locked up as a judge said a lengthy sentence was needed to represent an adequate punishment that reflects society's disapproval for such crimes against women. The 26-year-old repeatedly tormented the victims during a campaign of abuse spanning almost 4 years. It included Hill, of Curluke, Lanarkshire, raping both the traumatised women. Hill was yesterday sentenced at the High Court in Glasgow, having earlier been convicted of a total of 6 charges. The crimes occurred in Kirkintilloch, East Dunbartonshire, and in Lanark between November 2018 and March 2022. Judge Douglas Brown said he was responsible for the serious, emotional, physical and sexual abuse of the women. He told Hill, both describe in strikingly similar terms how you controlled and monitored what they were doing, insulted and intimidated them. Your behaviour has had a lasting psychological effect on them. The pre-sentencing report states how they both remain fearful of you. They continue to have flashbacks and both require counselling to assist them with moving on with their lives. The judge remarked Hill continued to deny the crimes and that he showed no insight into the offences. He added, the courts have to impose sentences that not only represent an adequate punishment, but also reflect society's disapproval for such crimes. It also has to act as a deterrent to those who somehow may consider such behaviour. Hill will be supervised for a further 3 years on his release. He was also put in the sex offenders list and banned from contacting the woman for an indefinite period. The hearing was earlier told how Hill had already had previous convictions for violence. In connection with the latest offences, his lawyer Lily Praise stated, "It is clear he accepts some poor behaviour. As far as the most significant parts of the indictment, his position remains one of denial." And the article was by Grant McCabe. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 18th of May, from the news section, women threaten to slash neighbour. This article is an exclusive by Esther Tarnay. A woman threatened to slash the throat of someone who complained about her loud TV in the early hours. Janet Collins was visited at her Rucasey flat by 2 police officers at 3 a.m. on January the 27th last year after a noise complaint. She was watching TV at full volume and the cops asked her to turn it down. The 48-year-old became aggressive and demanded to know who made the complaint. She said, "This is bang out. I will find out when you're finished. Whoever phoned you is getting their throat slashed." Collins continued to shout. Due to her manner and conduct, she was arrested. She was taken outside by officers where she continued to be aggressive. While being put in a cell van, she spat in the direction of one cop, narrowly missing them. She appeared at Glasgow Sheriff Court this week after pleading guilty to screaming, shouting and assault. Her lawyer said she is subject to an order that ends next month. She is dealing with addiction issues. She can behave horribly when under the influence. Will your leadership defer matters to see how her personal life progresses? Sheriff Simone Sweeney addressed Collins. "I see that you are now providing care to your father. Please, take this opportunity because if you don't, all sentencing options will remain open." Sentence was deferred. And the article was an exclusive by Esther Tarnay.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 20th of May. 6,000 people take part in Glasgow's Race for Life. An article written by Esther Tarnay. More than 6,000 people took part in Glasgow's Race for Life at the weekend. Volunteers who completed the charity run on Sunday raised over £750,000, which will enable scientists to find new ways to prevent, diagnose and to treat cancer. Dressed in pink or fancy dress, the crowd started from Glasgow Green, where guest of honour Laura Ego addressed the crowd. The East Kilbride mum was diagnosed with breast cancer just months before her 40th birthday and is now in remission. She said, "We all have a reason to race for life. For me, it's a chance to say thank you, to raise money to help people tackling cancer right now. Finding out I have the faulty gene was a shock. I will be looking at more surgery in the future, but that news has made me even more determined to do what I can to support the discovery of more treatments and cures for my daughter's generation." She and her husband Brian ran the 10,000 metres to support the life-saving research. Laura added, "In the space of just a few months, I went from the joy of celebrating the birth of our daughter with all the special people in my life to hours in a hospital ward. Cancer was one of the toughest things I've ever gone through, and there were frightening moments. Life changes in a second when you're told you have cancer. It was really weird. I wasn't prepared for it. I spent my 40th birthday preparing for chemotherapy treatment. It's vital to raise awareness so people know that if they find a lump in their breast during breastfeeding their baby, it's essential to get it checked out. I went to breastfeeding classes for mums-to-be, but a need to be aware of breast lumps was never mentioned to me. After I discovered a lump, I ignored it for some time as I just put it down to breastfeeding. Participants were pictured with smiles on their faces as they raced through the city in the sunshine. Lisa Adams, Cancer Research UK's spokesperson in Scotland, said, "We are incredibly grateful to everyone who took part in Race for Life Glasgow. No matter how cancer affects us, life is worth racing for. Sadly, nearly 1 in 2 of us will get cancer in our lifetime. Race for Life has the power not only to transform lives, but to save them. We're proud that Race for Life has already helped double survival rates in the UK." It was a fantastic day, full of emotion, courage, tears, laughter and hope, as people celebrated the lives of those dear to them who have survived cancer and remembered loved ones lost to the disease. Now we're asking everyone who took part to return the money they've raised as soon as possible. Funds raised, whether it's £10 or £100, will help scientists find new ways to prevent, diagnose and treat cancer, helping save more lives. An article written by Esther Tanai. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 20th of May. Celtic fans celebrate after title win. An article written by Esther Tanai. Thousands of Celtic fans took to Trongate at the weekend to celebrate after the club won the Scottish Premiership. Brendan Rodgers' side lifted the league trophy on Saturday as they ended their campaign with a 3-2 win over St Mirren. Women and men dressed in green and white took over the city centre with flags, flares and chants to mark the occasion. Several roads were closed and locals were advised to avoid the area as police guarded the crowd. Police Scotland confirmed that 25,000 supporters gathered in the city centre after the club won the Scottish Premiership. There were 19 arrests made for various alleged offences, including the use of pyrotechnics and alcohol disorder. 4 officers required medical attention due to their injuries. The force said they had an appropriate plan to maintain public safety and minimise disruption to local businesses and communities. Superintendent John Menzies added, "I would like to thank our partner agencies and the wider public for their support. Unfortunately, we experienced some disorder, including the use of pyrotechnics and alcohol-related offences. We took robust action to prevent these from escalating. Violence and assaults on members of the public or police officers is completely unacceptable, and we continue to work to identify those responsible." Meanwhile, Glasgow City Council described the damage, disruption and antisocial behaviour of Saturday's Celtic celebration as unacceptable. However, council officials commended the exceptional clean-up effort which took place overnight. On Sunday, a council spokesperson said, "As crowds began to disperse last night, they left a substantial amount of litter, debris and broken glass in a wide area around Glasgow Cross. After an exceptional clean-up effort by our teams overnight, the area is now clear, including the course for the Cancer Research UK Race for Life, which is taking place this morning. There's been damage to infrastructure, such as to bus stops and traffic signals, but we do not yet know the full extent of what repairs will be necessary. This kind of damage, disruption and antisocial behaviour remains unacceptable. It should be possible to celebrate and show a basic level of consideration for others in the city at the same time." Also on Sunday, Glasgow City Council leader Susan Aitken posted on X, previously known as Twitter, "Thanks to Glasgow City Council cleansing teams for their overnight clean-up. But it's depressing and unacceptable that yet again a significant number of grown adults are unable to celebrate their team's success while also respecting fellow citizens and public property." An article written by Esther Tanai. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 20th of May. College lecturers around Scotland strike over a pay dispute. An article written by Rosie Lewis and read by Howell. College lecturers around Scotland have walked out on strike in a long-running dispute over pay. Members of the Educational Institute of Scotland Further Education Lecturer Association, also known as EIS FELA, are taking action after talks last week did not resolve the dispute, which dates back to 2022. The association submitted a revised 4-year pay claim on Thursday in a bid to break the deadlock, but said employers did not offer enough progress for the union to consider suspending strike action this week. Lecturing staff in colleges around Scotland walked out on Monday on the first of 9 strike days in May and June, following previous strike action. College employers are offering a £5,000 consolidated pay rise over 3 academic years from September 2022. An EIS spokesperson said it was extremely disappointing the meeting last week did not achieve enough tangible progress for the union to consider suspending strike action. The spokesperson said, although the revised pay claim was tabled to College Employers Scotland at the meeting, the employer's side was unable to offer any assurances on certain elements of the pay uplift, as well as other parts of the claim. College lecturing staff want to be back in colleges, delivering classes and helping their students achieve their qualifications. However, they will continue to fight in order to receive a suitable pay rise, which addresses some of the financial pain and stress they've had to endure during the worst cost of living crisis in recent times. College Employers Scotland Director Gavin Donoghue said previously it's deeply regrettable that the EIS FELA is planning yet more strikes over May and into June. This latest escalation from the trade union will not result in improved pay proposals from employers, only disruption to students as they undertake vital exams and assessments. The employer's offer of a £5,000 consolidated pay rise over 3 academic years is full and final. He added the quickest way to resolve this dispute is for the EIS FELA to cancel their escalation of strike action and formally ballot their members on the employer's full and final 3-year pay offer. College Employers Scotland has been contacted for fresh comment. An article written by Rosie Lewis. Glasgow Times on Monday the 20th of May. Lifestyle. Glasgow author reveals the personal story behind her debut novel. An exclusive article written by Anne Fotheringham. Her debut novel is a coming-of-age story bursting with big themes from mental health and growing up in care to pain medication addiction and working-class life. Running through all of it, says Margaret MacDonald, 25-year-old author of Glasgow Boys, is her love of the city itself. I was born here and moved to East Kilbride when I was 3 years old, but when I returned to Glasgow to study, the city was to me the hub of the world, explains Margaret. It was the most glorious place, bursting with life and colour and food and art and music and people. She adds, my main driving force was to depict the modern and multicultural city as I know it, the city that welcomes all with open arms and accepts anyone who wishes to use the Glaswegian title. Glasgow would not be Glasgow without its tapestry of ethnic communities, religious faiths, identities, all and every walk of life. Glasgow Boys, published by Faber and Faber, is the story of Banjo and Finlay, 2 young men who grew up in care and are now trying to make their way in their own worlds of university life, high school, work and relationships. The themes, mental health, trauma, queerness, minimum wage jobs, the NHS, the student experience and the working class experience, are all coloured by my life in some way, says Margaret. I worked for the NHS, spent a month in hospital after a bowel operation and worked every single job within this novel. A hallkeeper, a janitor, a waiter, a dishwasher, everything. She adds, the substance use disorder Banjo experiences is heavily influenced by mine too. I took dihydrocodeine for chronic pain from my aggressive Crohn's disease and weaned myself off with some guidance and a lot of luck. There is a huge spectrum of lived experiences within substance use disorder, but it would be an incredible thing if it was discussed more openly as a result of Banjo's story. John Radu, a children's therapist who grew up in care and has worked in care homes, helped Margaret in her research. John helped me to understand that the care experience is wildly individualistic and varied, and there are countless ways the system has touched people's lives, she says. I openly accept anyone who finds Glasgow Boys' depiction of care to be limited. Fiction can only do so much, but then fiction is in conversation with the world. My hope here is that Glasgow Boys can help to start that conversation about care, critical or otherwise. The book is deeply personal for Margaret, she explains. Truthfully, I may never have another story in me, so it's personal, she adds. I hope people enjoy it and see the beauty of life, such as theirs and mine, a life so full of joy and pride in being working class in Glasgow. Glasgow Boys is out now, and on July the 3rd, Margaret will be talking about her novel in conversation with National Library of Scotland librarian Amina Shah at the Kelvin Hall in Glasgow. An exclusive article written by Anne Fotheringham. Glasgow Times, on Monday the 20th of May. Lifestyle. Scottish singer creates an unofficial song for the 2024 Euros. An exclusive article written by Morgan Carmichael. A Scottish singer-songwriter has created a tune for Scotland ahead of the 2024 UEFA European Football Championships in Germany. Before the competition kicks off on June the 14th, Michael Macmillan from Thornley Bank has written a song which he hopes becomes the country's official song throughout the prestigious contest and beyond. Speaking on the song, which he called Scotland Unofficial Euros 2024, Michael said, "I'm really happy and pleased with how the song has turned out. My goal is for it to be opted as the official Scottish song for the Euros 2024 and beyond. I would love for people to buy it and to be able to play it at half-time. That's the aim. I would love the SFA to play it at half-time at all the upcoming friendlies and at all other games and football grounds." The 64-year-old went on to say that he created the song with friends and like-minded people before recording it at the Foundry Music Lab in Motherwell. It was officially released on May the 10th, and before that, Michael played a version of the song at the SNP Burn Supper at the Redhurst Hotel on January the 28th, which was in the presence of the now First Minister John Swinney and other SNP candidates. However, the song was not born out of Michael's hopes to create a football classic, but instead from a bout of homesickness. He explained, "I actually wrote the song a while ago when I was in America. I was dealing with a lot of homesickness, and I just wanted to write about Scotland and what I was feeling at the time." Michael tends to tour around America for 6 months of the year, which he has done frequently throughout his 25 years of creating music. If that were not impressive enough, Michael is also currently working on his 9th album after his last, Heaven Sent Ranch, was nominated for Scottish Album of the Year at the Scottish Music Industry Awards last year. Michael also recently embarked on a 22-date tour around male prisons in Scotland to play to inmates. This was part of a play called The Insiders, which starred former River City star Jerry Sweeney, the Angel Share actor Neil Leeper, and British actor Sam Rowe. He was asked to create and play the music for the play after the stars of the production heard his previous work. He said the experience felt right, having been a police officer and addictions counsellor for 15 years. Michael's song is now available to listen to or to download on all streaming platforms, including the likes of Spotify. You can also check out the song on YouTube. An exclusive article written by Morgan Carmichael. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 20th of May. Man stabbed in Glasgow has died, sparking a hunt for suspects. An article written by Kirsty Feerick. A man has died after being stabbed in Glasgow, sparking a police hunt for 2 suspects. The 27-year-old was assaulted on Saracen Street in Postle Park at 5 p.m. on Saturday afternoon and was rushed to the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital, where he later passed away. A post-mortem examination will be carried out. However, police are now treating the death as suspicious. Officers have been conducting inquiries and have established that 2 men were involved in attacking the man. The first suspect is described as white, in his 30s, wearing a light blue top and black shorts. The second suspect is white, also in his 30s, and wearing a white top with black shorts and black trainers. Officers are gathering and reviewing CCTV footage from in and around the area for additional information on the suspects. Detective Inspector Leslie Ann McGee said, "It was a warm, sunny day and there were lots of people out enjoying the weather in Saracen Street. I'm asking them to get in touch with us with any information that could assist us in establishing the motive for this attack. If you saw, heard or know anything, please contact us. I'm also asking people with dashcam or doorbell recording equipment to check for any footage that could assist our investigation. A family is mourning the loss of a loved one, and it's imperative we are able to answer how their loved one died. There will be additional officers in the area over the coming days, and anyone with information or concerns can approach these officers." An article written by Kirsty Fearick. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 20th of May. New bus tour arrives in time for summer. An article written by Kirsty Fearick. A new Glasgow tour has arrived in time for summer and will cover the east and the south of the city. City Sightseeing Glasgow, which operates the hop-on, hop-off bus tours in Glasgow, has added a new yellow tour. This will offer explorers the chance to discover more of the city's cultural, historical, sports and architectural attractions, as well as to enjoy views of the city and the River Clyde. The new tour will complement the existing Red Tour and will include Tennant's Brewery, the Barrowland Ballroom and Celtic Park, alongside the Emirates Stadium, the Tramway, Pollock Country Park, the Burrell Collection, the House for an Art Lover, Ibrox and Glasgow Science Centre. For those who want to explore more of the south side, connections at Pollokshields East and Maxwell Park offer access to Shawlands, Battlefield and Hampden Football Stadium. Richie Graham, Operations Manager at City Sightseeing Glasgow, said, "We are excited to launch our new yellow tour. With 19 new stops and the flexibility to hop on and off at your leisure, this tour is the ideal way to experience the city's lesser-known wonders and visit some of the attractions away from the crowds, whilst hopefully enjoying sunny weather." The yellow tour will operate daily from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m, starting and ending at North Hanover Street near George Square. The tour will take approximately 90 minutes. The red and yellow routes connect at George Square and at North Hanover Street, the Merchant City, the Barras, St Enoch, Oswald Street for Central Station and at Buchanan Bus Station. For those who want to experience both routes, there is a variety of combination tickets available. Tickets for both routes can be bought online, on the bus, or from the City Sightseeing Glasgow team at George Square. An article written by Kirsty Fearick. Glasgow Times on Monday the 20th of May. Opinion. A right to addiction treatment would help cut deaths. A column written by Mike Daly. Deaths from alcohol and drug addiction in Scotland have increased significantly over the last 30 years. Figures from the National Records of Scotland show that 1,276 people died from conditions caused by alcohol in 2022, compared to 410 in 1992. The number of people who died from drug-related conditions was 1,051 in 2022, compared to just 311 in 1992. National Records Scotland will publish figures for 2023 in August. Every death is a personal tragedy and a life cut short. No one would agree that we should do everything possible to tackle this issue and reduce addiction-related deaths. One attempt to do so is the Right to Addiction Recovery Scotland Bill, which was introduced in the Scottish Parliament by Douglas Ross, MSP, last week. The bill provides for a right for anyone diagnosed as having a drug or alcohol addiction to receive a treatment determination. Treatment would have to be provided as soon as reasonably practicable and no later than 3 weeks from the date of the determination. The aims of this initiative should command widespread support, and it would be sad and unforgivable if tribal party politics stymied that. There is no party political ideology in the scope of the bill. It seeks to enhance access to addiction treatment services through a rights-based approach. Its focus is on individual needs and choices. A new statutory right to treatment aligns with the principle of universal healthcare access, which is supported across all political spectrums in Scotland. By enshrining the right to treatment in law, the bill empowers individuals, giving them the ability to challenge decisions and advocate for their needs. Such empowerment would help address the power imbalance experienced by those seeking treatment for recovery. The bill is designed to be flexible and inclusive, allowing for current and future treatment options. The proposed legislation would be able to adapt to new treatment methods and ideas. The focus is on improving health outcomes and supporting recovery through legal means, which is a non-partisan issue that should attract broad support. One misconception is that the bill is anti-harm reduction. Anne-Marie Ward is the Chief Executive of FACE and Voices of Recovery UK and has been closely involved in the formation and development of the bill. For her, the proposed legislation would assist current harm reduction strategies. Anne-Marie said, overall, the Right to Recovery Bill is not anti-harm reduction, but rather an inclusive legislative proposal designed to ensure that all individuals have the legal right to access the treatment and support they choose. It complements existing harm reduction strategies by providing a legal framework that supports an integrated approach to addiction treatment. The bill is not against specific harm reduction measures like drugs consumption rooms. It seeks to amend the 1978 NHS Scotland Act to include all agreed treatment-based interventions, including new future treatment options. The term recovery in the bill encompasses all available treatment options, not just abstinence-based approaches. It aims to provide a legal framework where individuals can access a person-centred care plan of their choice without being pushed toward any unwanted treatments. The bill does not replace current strategies but underpins them with legal support. This will ensure that any strategies are enforceable and that individuals' rights to choose their treatment plans are respected. A column written by Mike Daly. Glasgow Times, on Monday, the 20th of May. Opinion. Glasgow can lead the way on stopping fireworks danger. A column written by John Molyneux. Curbing the misuse of fireworks is something I've campaigned on since I was first elected in 2017. So I was delighted to secure cross-party support this week for my proposal to establish a fireworks control zone covering the entire Glasgow City Council area. Fireworks control zones are new powers available to councils, which makes it an offence to set off most kinds of fireworks in certain areas. A zone could set specific dates and times when the offences would be enforced, and organised public displays are exempt. To use the powers there must be evidence of need and people must be consulted. The Council is inviting local communities to make requests for these zones by June the 12th. While local interest is welcome, I believe there should be a fireworks control zone across the whole Glasgow City Council area. As a first step, council officials have been instructed to gather evidence for a city-wide zone, in particular by working with charities representing groups most adversely affected. I believe the need for a city-wide zone is self-evident. If we want to protect animals or people with extra vulnerabilities, such as sensory disorders or a history of trauma, then very obviously these groups are not confined to one or two areas. It's an issue in all our communities across the city. In my ward, Pollokshields, there have been long-standing issues with misusing fireworks. They've been handed out from car boots and used by mostly young men as weapons, being aimed at people, property and at police and fire service workers. Young children have been hospitalised. The barrage of fireworks lasts weeks, even months, all the time making many people afraid and terrifying pets. This all carries a cost. There is significant pressure on already stretched police and fire resources, as well as extra clean-up costs for the council and a loss of trade for local businesses, with people afraid to leave their homes at night. The legislation that led to firework control zones followed a public meeting in Pollokshields, the best attended I've ever been to, at which the then First Minister Nicola Sturgeon MSP committed to take action on this issue as far as possible within the powers of the Scottish Parliament. I'm proud that the Pollokshields community helped to inform the powers in the Fireworks and Pyrotechnic Articles Scotland Act. However, while new powers are welcome, I think we must still go further. Almost 3/4 of people back restricting the general public sale of fireworks. The Scottish Government has delayed introducing a new licensing scheme for buying fireworks, and that is extremely disappointing. The UK Government refuses to even consider using its overarching powers to restrict sales, despite strong support from many Conservative members and voters. Whether these new powers make a difference remains to be seen, but what's clear from all parties on Glasgow City Council is that if we want to end the dangerous and harmful use of fireworks, then doing nothing is not an option. A column written by John Molyneux, who is a Scottish Green councillor for Pollokshields. Glasgow Times News on Monday, the 20th of May. Over 50 pubs and bars in the city set to open for an extra hour. An article written by Drew Sandilance. Over 50 pubs and bars in Glasgow city centre can open for an extra hour under a pilot project. The city's licensing board has granted permission for 54 premises to open until 1 a.m, extending their closing time from midnight. It's now been confirmed that the change will come into force immediately, with individual venues able to decide when they first use the extra hour. One application was withdrawn ahead of the hearing. Glasgow's Health and Social Care Partnership suggested that an additional hour is inconsistent with the aims of protecting and improving public health. However, licensing lawyer Archie McKeever argued that a trial would allow the board to evaluate the impact of the change. The city's SNP group pushed for the pilot ahead of the licensing board unveiling a new policy statement in November last year. Council leader Susan Aitken said it could be a shot in the arm for businesses struggling after the COVID pandemic. Allowing 1 a.m. closures brings Glasgow's opening hours in line with those in Edinburgh. Some industry figures have previously questioned whether it will be beneficial, raising concerns over increased costs and a lack of public transport for customers. Councillor Aitken said that the pilot would allow the city and the trade to decide whether there is the market demand for an extra hour. A Health and Social Care Partnership representative said that the volume of applications was regarded as a significant increase in the licensed hours within the city centre. Alcohol is the primary offer for the majority of these premises, and this additional hour will be for the purpose of alcohol consumption, she added. It's anticipated that individuals will consume more alcohol for longer periods of time within the same premises than is currently the case. While it may well boost the licence holders with increased takings behind the bar, there is a cost that is paid later by society and by the individual. She also raised issues around the availability of public transport and taxis. The Health and Social Care Partnership provided a list of a number of international research papers which recognise that increasing hours of access to alcohol within the nighttime economy is linked to increased intoxication, assaults, injuries and burdens on public services. In response, Mr McKeever said, "The whole purpose of a trial is to evaluate. Was it beneficial? Was it not beneficial? Until we see it in operation, none of us can say whether it will be a success." He added that only one of the studies looked at the UK, and none of them looked at Glasgow. None of them looked at Scotland. When licensed hours have previously been increased in Glasgow, there has not been evidence of any additional harm or public disorder, he suggested. An article written by Drew Sandilance. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 20th of May. Police investigating as a crossbow is fired into multiple houses. An article written by Kirsty Fierick. Police are investigating a crossbow being fired into multiple houses. Detectives are appealing for information after 2 separate incidents of reckless conduct. The first incident happened between 5 p.m. on Saturday afternoon and 3:10 p.m. on Sunday, involving a crossbow bolt being fired into a window of a house in Orbison Place in Clydebank, resulting in the window being smashed. A second identical incident happened at another house in Orbison Place at around 12:45 a.m. in the early hours of Monday morning. The homeowners have been left shocked, but no one was injured as a result of these actions. Detective Sergeant Barry Convery of the CID said, "It's fortunate that no one was hurt following this mindless behaviour. The homeowners were extremely shocked, and those responsible should consider the impact this has on others. We are treating both these incidents as linked. We are asking anyone with any information to come forward as soon as possible in order to assist with our ongoing inquiries." An article written by Kirsty Fierick. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 20th of May. Residents asked to give views on the future of their town centre. An article written by Shannon Milmean. Rutherglen residents are being asked to offer their views on the future of the town centre. South Lanarkshire Council has launched an online consultation, and staff will hold in-person meetings to hear locals, business owners, employees and visitors give their views. The purpose of the Rutherglen Town Centre Strategy and Action Plan is to propose a long-term shared vision for the town centre and set objectives and actions to underpin it. Chair of the Council's Community and Enterprise Resources Committee, Councillor Robert Brown, who represents Rutherglen South, said, "Rutherglen Town Centre on our historic main street is the heart of the Rutherglen community, and we want to ensure it's a vibrant hub with shops, community services, leisure, business and homes at the centre of a growing town with an incredible history, heritage and culture." Although town centres across South Lanarkshire and indeed the country have faced a number of challenges in recent years, Rutherglen Town Centre is, in comparison to a number of similar towns, performing well with high occupancy rates for retail, hospitality and services. But it's important to build on this and to ensure that what is on offer is what the people of Rutherglen need, want and can access, but which also provides an attractive offering for visitors to the town. This is particularly important as we approach the 900th anniversary of the Royal Borough in 2026. Supporting our town centres remains a council priority, and we continue to work closely with the appropriate groups and organisations in each town through a partnership approach to achieve our common goals. So please, if you have the chance, take the time to speak to our staff in the shopping centre, and if not, please take time to complete the online survey. Council staff will be at the Rutherglen Exchange Shopping Centre from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on May the 20th and also on May the 22nd. An article written by Shannon Milmean.
From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 21st of May, from the news section. Glasgow charity scoops major national award. This article is unattributed. A Glasgow charity has beaten more than 500 other contenders across the UK to clinch a prestigious national award. Amma Birth Companions was recognised for its work to improve the health, well-being and birthing experiences of pregnant women in vulnerable circumstances, including asylum seekers and refugees. Founded in 2019, the charity is one of the 10 winners of the 2024 GSK Impact Awards, which are delivered in partnership with the care charity The King's Fund. The awards acknowledge the outstanding work of small and medium-sized charities that improve people's health and well-being in the UK. Maria Aldham, Chief Executive Officer of Amma Birth Companions, said, "We are deeply honoured to receive this prestigious award. This recognition fuels our dedication to enhancing maternal well-being and reinforces the significance of our efforts to tackle systematic disparities in perinatal care. Amma Birth Companions will get £40,000 in unrestricted funding along with leadership guidance and expert support from the King's Fund. The charity's work is crucial for numerous women, often asylum seekers or individuals with insecure immigration status, who are up against multiple disadvantages potentially resulting in poor birth outcomes and giving birth alone. Significantly, data shows alarming racial disparities in maternal mortality rates, with women from black or Asian ethnic backgrounds at higher risk than white women. Some of these mothers survive on just over £6 a day of state-provided aid and face childbirth alone with no support network. AMA will publish findings on birth experiences, spotlighting systemic disparities that their clients face, such as poor and discriminatory practices, inadequate interpreter provision, and high rates of intervention. Recommendations to create a more equitable maternal care system for those most severely affected by adverse maternal health outcomes will be detailed. Katie Pinnock, Director of UK Charitable Partnerships at GSK, said, "Amanda Birth Companions is a small but incredibly effective charity, giving voice and choice to marginalised women such as asylum seekers at a crucial time in their lives." As the only charity in Scotland specialising in this work, its services are critical to prevent poor birth outcomes among some of Glasgow's most vulnerable mothers and give their babies the best possible start in life. In addition to its targeted support services for pregnant women and new mothers, AMA is also driving improvements in maternity care in Scotland by using the lived experience of the women it supports to directly shape government policy. And the article was unattributed. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 21st of May, from the news section, Murder Probe Launched. This article is written by Rebecca Newlands and Ben Waddle. A murder investigation has been launched after a Glasgow man was fatally stabbed in Postle Park in broad daylight. Brian Goff was attacked on Saracen Street at around 5 p.m. on Saturday. The 27-year-old, who is from Springburn, was taken to the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital where he later died. We reported earlier that the victim had been named locally, with tributes appearing in social media and at the crime scene near where a large tent had been erected. Flowers and a ranger's top were left with notes dedicated to Big Brian. Friends also took to social media to share their heartbreak over his death. One said, "R.I.P. Brian, such a cruel world, so young and had his full life ahead of him, thinking of all the Goff family at this sad time." Another said, "Very shocked and sad about this news. Brian was a lovely boy. My thoughts are with the Goff family." Now, police have confirmed that following a post-mortem examination, they are treating Brian's death as murder. Investigations are underway and detectives are still particularly keen to trace two men. Both are described as being white and in their 30s. One wore a light blue top and black shorts, while the other was wearing a white top, black shorts and black trainers. Police are also urging anyone with CCTV or dashcam footage in the area at the time to get in touch as, unbeknownst to them, their footage could have captured something vital to the investigation. More officers will remain in the area while inquiries are carried out and anyone who is worried can speak to them. Detective Chief Inspector Graham McCready said, "Our thoughts are with Brian's family and friends at this very difficult time, and we will continue to support them as our inquiries continue." Following a post-mortem examination, Brian's death has been treated as murder, and extensive inquiries are ongoing to establish the full circumstances. We are still keen to trace two men. The first man is described as white, in his 30s, wearing a light blue top and black shorts. The second man is white, also in his 30s, and wearing a white top with black shorts and black trainers. I would ask anyone who was in the area at the time and saw anything they believe may assist our inquiries to get in touch. If you have dashcam footage, private CCTV or doorbell footage, please let us know. You may have captured something that can assist us. As our extensive inquiries continue, I want to reassure people there will be an increased police presence in the local area, and to anyone with any concerns can speak to these officers. Anyone with information is asked to call Police Scotland via 101, quoting incident number 2986 of May the 18th, 2024. Alternatively, you can call Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111. The force has also set up a website that gives members of the public access to a form to send information directly to the major investigation team. You can select to remain anonymous when submitting information, and the portal can be accessed online. And that article was written by Rebecca Newlands and Ben Waddle, and it was read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 21st of May, from the news section. Winter night shelter in Glasgow to remain open. Report by Catherine Hunter. A winter night shelter in Glasgow city centre is set to remain open to help cope with the demand for its service. The shelter is run by Homeless Project Scotland, a charity that is run entirely by volunteers across the country and aims to offer a safe haven for those experiencing homelessness while working with them to break the cycle of homelessness. Set up in 2019 by founders Colin McInnes and Fraser Riddle, the organisation runs a soup kitchen under Glasgow Central on Argyle Street, a food van, street teams, and have a 24/7 phone line. They have also partnered with Govan Law Centre to deliver the shelter, advocate for the rights of homeless individuals, and help find accommodation for the people who need it while helping people struggling with addiction. This winter, Homeless Project Scotland introduced the country's first entirely volunteer-run emergency night shelter, centrally located at the heart of Glasgow, at Glasford Street. Since January, around 3,000 people have used the shelter, which averages at 35 people a night, but the charity is expecting the number of people in need to spike and intends to continue operating the night shelter throughout the year to help those in need. After positive discussions with Barry Cushley, the owner of Glasford Street, and a board meeting with the trustees, the charity has announced that the winter night shelter will continue on a month-by-month basis. It will open every night, but a review will take place every month to make sure they still have the volunteers to run it. Colin McInnes, founder of the charity, said, "With the current housing emergency across Scotland, the need for this shelter has never been greater. We are committed to providing a safe, warm space for those in need during these challenging times. The shelter runs every single night. People can come to the doors at 10:30 p.m. If the council cannot accommodate someone, we then accommodate them in the shelter. The board of directors will review this every month to see if we can continue this. The reason we are reviewing this every month is down to volunteers." And that article was written by Catherine Hunter.
The Glasgow Times, on Wednesday the 22nd of May 2024. From the news section. Perv found guilty after sex attack on teen after Calvin Harris gig. This article was written by Connor Gordon and is being read by me, Corey. A pervert florist who committed a sex attack on a teenager after she attended a Calvin Harris concert has avoided jail. Caleb Thomas, 21, pounced on the then 19-year-old at Glasgow city centre's Jury Inn Hotel on July 3rd, 2022. The victim had been at the Hampden Park gig with her friend before she met up with Thomas and his friend, who she knew, at the hotel room. Court papers state Thomas sexually assaulted the teenager by repeatedly placing his hand underneath her shorts. He then touched her legs, sat astride her, and kissed her on the cheek. On 2 occasions, Thomas of Livingston, West Lothian, performed a sex act on her. Thomas was found guilty by a jury of the single charge at Glasgow Sheriff Court. Thomas was ordered to do 300 hours of unpaid work at Wednesday's sentencing. He was tagged for 6 months, keeping him indoors between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m, and put under supervision and sex offenders register for 3 years. A 5-year non-harassment order was also granted prohibiting Thomas's contact with his victim. Sheriff Tony Kelly told the court that the offence merits custody. He said, "In light of what I've been told of your personal circumstances in your background report, what your lawyer has said, and the young person's sentencing guidelines, I am prepared to step back from custody. This order is a direct alternative to custody. You might think this will be the easy option, but it is far from it." Alan Jackson, defending, told the sentencing that his client lost his job as a florist, which held for 2 years as a result of the conviction and its media coverage. The lawyer stated that his client maintains his position at trial, but accepts the decision of the court. That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was written by Conor Gordon, and it was read by me, Corey. The Glasgow Times, on Wednesday the 22nd of May 2024. From the news section. Thug who broke Morton Rowe's colleague's jaw, sentenced. This article was written by Conor Gordon and is being read by me, Corey. A thug who broke a colleague's jaw over a row over his work ethic has been ordered to pay him £1,200 compensation. David McDougall, 33, punched Dalton Milliken at Morton Rowe's Bakery in Glasgow Drumchapel on July 19th of 2022. McDougall initially argued with Mr. Milliken about his attitude to the job. He later apologised to Mr. Milliken in the locker room, but was met with a negative response. This led to McDougall punching his victim, which caused him to stumble back against a locker. McMilliken suffered a broken jaw in 2 places and required to be fitted with a metal plate. McDougall pleaded guilty at Glasgow Sheriff Court to assaulting Mr. Milliken to his severe injury. McDougall of Clydebank, West Dunbartonshire, was ordered to do 240 hours of unpaid work. He was also put under supervision for 12 months, as well as given the compensation order. The court earlier heard McDougall started his shift at Morton Rowe's with Mr. Milliken and another man. Prosecutor Lauren Sangray said, "Through the shift, Mr. Milliken and McDougall began arguing. Quote, during this, McDougall questioned McMilliken's work ethic and asked him, 'Where the F have you been?' End quote. After the shift, the pair entered the locker room where McDougall apologised for his earlier outburst. Mr. Milliken replied, 'I don't want an apology, P-word.' Miss Sangray added, McDougall went towards him and punched him once on the left side of his face, causing him to stumble back into a locker. Neither men said anything to each other, and they all left. Mr. Milliken attended hospital later that day, where he was found to have broken his jaw in 2 places. Miss Sangray said he required 2 metal plates to be fixed to his jaw. He remained in hospital and was discharged 2 days later. That article was from the Glasgow Times. It was from the news section. It was written by Conor Gordon, and it was read by me, Corey.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at View and Review and to tell your friends about our service.